We have the one, the only, the legend that needs no introduction, and yet I'm going to do it anyways. Nik Sharma. We have a very, very special relationship with Nik. He's been one of the earliest adopters of Social Snowball. He also knows quite literally everything there is to know about D2C. I keep waiting for him to drop like the big encyclopedia of D2C things by Nik Sharma, but then he'll probably tell me that it's stupid to put anything to print because things change so fast. Nik, how are we feeling today?
Feeling good. How are you? What an
Doing
intro.
well. I know. Did you enjoy the past couple of days of good weather in New York? Were you out
Yeah,
frolicking?
now we're back to rain again. You're here too?
Yeah, I'm here. The rain kept me
Yeah,
up at
it's
night.
rough.
It's okay. It is what it is.
It is what it is,
Well,
exactly.
we had our couple we had a couple of days of like early spring. So Nik, take it away. Teach us
Awesome.
how DTC brands can get influencer marketing right. I can't wait for the session. Floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, nice to be here. I see myself here in the thing, so I'm going to just exit out of this so I don't have to look at myself while I talk. But before we get into it, I just want to know who's alive. Drop a 1 to 10 in the chat, how you're feeling. Maybe let me know where you're watching from. I'm curious who's here. If I know you, say what's up. But yeah, okay, we got 11s and 10s. Somebody's alive. All right, hopefully we can make him feel better. A lot of 10s. Awesome. 17, 11 LA. There we go. What's up, Brad? Okay, we got a good group here. So today for this session, so anytime I do these, I don't try to like go off whatever I talked about last time. A lot of times it is somewhat of a similar topic, but I wanted to just kind of make it very realistic to today. Like, what am I seeing with brands, either where I'm consulting with them, or maybe I'm doing a call with them, or maybe I'm just also having dinner with somebody and, I get to hear about how Hudson has, done something crazy at Comfort that, you just picked up at a dinner conversation. So, today's conversation is basically all about influencers, right? So, in my opinion, influencers are like the new TV. All these view through channels that drive brand awareness and build brand or give you impressions. Those are view through channels. They don't have clicks behind them. You can't track them in Google Analytics. And influencers have kind of become a big part of that view through category. And the reason is because they just work so well. Like TV, everybody knows TV exists, TV ads exist. Influencers, like you're telling different stories, and different is kind of the key there. So the problem is most creators make up 10% of creative media mix, but a lot of times they're driving, 50 to 80% of the ad accounts results. So, hopefully today's conversation helps you decide it's time to close that gap. And, I've also seen this from a ton of different angles. So I worked at a beverage brand where, I kind of created our influencer program across YouTubers, Instagram. That was when like YouTube and Instagram was really big. This was 10 years ago, all the way to working with brands that have scaled using influencers, whether it's a Jolie, turning customers into creators, whether it's 8 Sleep, kind of filling the middle of the funnel, which we'll talk about in a second, across YouTube and TikTok, whether it's Half Days that use creators to drop products. But I've also been in the trenches with celebrity and influencer brands from day one. So POV Beauty with Michaela Nogueira, who's the biggest beauty influencer, Lemmy with Kourtney Kardashian, Feastables with Mr. Beast, Rare Beauty with Selena Gomez. So this is the context I'm going to come to you with today. And I basically just want to talk about the old playbook, kind of that most people are still in the mindset of or still trying to execute against. The new playbook, where I think influencers have kind of a few specific jobs where they plug in and can actually show results. And then I'll give you a couple of action things to do. So the old playbook. So, the core mistake from the old playbook is basically treating influencers like a media buy. So, it's really rare now that that's the case. Before it was like, hey, I'm gonna find this creator or this influencer. I'm gonna pay them. They're gonna make a post about my product, and I'm gonna hope for the best. Hopefully, there's gonna be a bunch of engagement on the post. Gonna be some good comments. Maybe some other influencers see it, and maybe hopefully people see that post and then go and buy our product, whether it's on Amazon or retail or our website. But that was when the focus was kind of on the influencer's brand, whereas today it's not really about that, right? People don't follow people anymore. They kind of follow niches or you could call, I guess I just think of them as like algorithmic niches. On Instagram, you can go and see like what your algorithm thinks of you or what like micro topics you're interested in. That is kind of how the whole feed has moved, and that's how people are now following creators as well. So it's really about the content. But that old way leads to this addiction of vanity metrics And the only exception I think that exists there is podcast ads, because that's where you really have the creative and the media in one. But today you can kind of separate those. So the new playbook, like the way that I think you should use influencers, the way that I think brands are using them well, one is there's a few different ways. So I'm going to talk about the first way. That is what I call the always on creative pipeline. So you see this a lot with brands like Ridge Wallet, for example, or Jones Road, or even like a Jolie, right? They just have a network of creators who are always on for them. Maybe they have a new product drop, maybe they have a new colorway, maybe they have a new feature they want to talk about, and they know that they've got a network of creators or a group of creators who will turn around X, Y, or Z piece of content in X amount of hours with certain cuts. Like everything is pre-agreed upon, right? This is basically almost like using creators kind of like a machine. Input, hey, this is our new product, this is our new thing, this is what we want you to talk about. And then the output or the deliverable coming back is already agreed upon, so that it's like, hey, as soon as we give it to them, we know within 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, something is coming back. So that's kind of the first way to use it. And think of this really as like your almost like a conveyor belt leading into the paid ads world, where you've just got a pipeline of creative from creators that's always coming in. So that's one way to use them. Why do I like this? Well, if you start whitelisting their content as well as using their content, you can usually drop CPCs in the platform from like 30 to 50%. And then you can also, like separately, you can take this group, and if you use something like Social Snowball, you can actually see how it does. If those guys are also posting on their own, so let's say you work with creators, you seed them product just for you to get content, but they also decide to post it, because that happens a lot now. Again, because people don't define their brand as what's on their grid. It's about what hits the algorithm. So take a brand like Comfort, for example. They put out thousands of posts per week, and then whatever does above the baseline, or kind of like the average engagement, they'll take that, put ad spend behind it, and then give that creator a percent of that ad spend. So you can kind of have a double win there in that sense. You get the content, but you can also then have them post it and boost it if it works there too. Second way creators work really well is kind of the audience and the real estate, I call it. So the audience is like you tap into a trusted audience, right? And here it's not about going after their audience. It's really about getting a cosign. So kind of like a higher form of a social proof, a higher, more, more, I don't know, grand version of like a review almost. So for example, there's a creator named Nicole. Her Instagram handle is @nobread on Instagram. So, if you work with her and you're a food product, now her audience gets the signal that, oh, this passes all of her vetted principles and, things that she stands for. So you're not really buying an ad there. You're more so buying like an endorsement that you can then leverage. And then the real estate piece, which is one that a lot of people sleep on, except the really big companies. So, companies like Kate Spade, Forever 21, even like an Everlane, Aritzia, they all use mommy bloggers like crazy. And they do it through a network called Like to Know It. Used to be called Reward Style. But these mommy bloggers are heavily slept on. Mommy bloggers that work with like a Kate Spade, on an average Saturday, they'll post a couple of Instagram stories and drive $1 million worth of revenue. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go and put $100,000 into a massive mommy blogger, but what I am saying is go find mommy bloggers you actually can work with and try to partner up with them as well. So as you're looking for creators, which we'll talk about in a second, try to actually go find some mommy bloggers that you think would work for your brand. They have insane ability to move product. And when I say move product, I mean like drive sales. Really on more like a click-through basis, not just a view-through basis. If they have websites as well. So when I say mommy blogger, I'm talking about moms using, mommy bloggers love the term mommy bloggers. I'm sure they do. When I talk about mommy bloggers, I'm talking about mommy bloggers that are really just omnipresent on social or wherever, you think their audience could benefit from your product. Mostly it's Instagram. Danny Austin, very famous mommy blogger. She ended up starting her own brand, hair care brand that we got to work on. But what's cool is because she also has a website, like she can use her own website for advertorials, for listicles, first person POV articles. So if you do happen to find a mommy blogger who also has a website, you can also leverage their website as like an advertorial, kind of a different version of an advertorial there. All right. Now, the last way to leverage creators, in my opinion. So we've talked about the affiliate way, the product seeding. We've talked about the whitelisting, potentially using them for the cosign, potentially using their digital real estate for an advertorial. The last piece is just like using their content omnipresent. So use it as a conversion asset. So whether you use it on your landing pages, as alternate images in your PDP carousels, in your cart abandonment emails, wherever you use it, it provides much better social proof, and it feels a lot more legit than the AI slop that you're probably using on your website right now, if we're being real. Now, who does this best? There's a few categories I like to look at that do this best, where they kind of use creator content within their entire funnel. One is alcohol, because alcohol brands cannot post, all the alcohol brands have agreed to a certain set of rules that they will all not break. For example, you can't have alcohol in a moving vehicle. You can't have it on a boat. You can't be drinking it in an ad. You'll never see somebody drinking alcohol in a commercial. So there's all these weird rules. So they use creators really well. Alcohol is a good category. Apparel is a good one, because apparel, whether it's bags, jackets, tops, bottoms, it's going to look different on every different body type, every different color skin. So the more they use creators, the better it is. Aritzia is a phenomenal example of this, right? Like if you look at TikTok, Aritzia is plastered all over the place from creators, but they rarely do anything from their own account. And then the last place I like to look at this is, what was the third category? Oh, furniture brands, because it's kind of the same thing, whether it's rugs, whether it's outdoor furniture for the patio, whether it's couches, whether it's lamps, they've got to show it in a ton of different scenarios. And, pre-AI, you can't really go and shoot a ton of different studios. So it's too expensive. So they use creators a lot of times. So kind of think of this as like a conversion asset. Where can you use more creator content in the funnels? And that's the end of that little segment. So, all right. So what's your action plan? So first of all, everything I just mentioned, which could be a lot or not. I don't know how your brain works. There's a lot to do. So what I would recommend is, you're probably thinking, how do I start? And the first place to start is, don't go and use ChatGPT or Claude or one of these other platforms to go and find influencers for yourself. Okay. What I would recommend, if you want to go overdrive mode, make a new Instagram account or make a new TikTok account and try to train it to just, consume content that you think your biggest majority of your customers are consuming or looking at, or like try to mimic your customer with those new accounts. Okay, that's the best way to probably go and just see what are those eyeballs seeing, so that you can be most relevant and you can understand the best. And what's cool is, I just did this with OpenClaw the other day. You can connect OpenClaw to a Twitter developer account, train a new account to have the same algorithm as your customer, and now you're going to basically see everything that your customer is going to see on Instagram, but like a week earlier, because you're going to see it through Twitter, which is just how that platform works. So anyways, go and find these creators, go and see what the feeds look like, and try to start using that to figure out what kind of creators you want to work with. Start DMing these people, start emailing them, get in touch with them. And then, once you start to form that, then start the engine. So whether it's starting to actually put together these mini retainers for content creation, whether it's doing something where you do like a cosign, whatever it may be, whether it's just product seeding to get started and then see what you can whitelist after that, whichever way you think works best for you, go ahead and get started on that. And the last thing I want to say is, kind of there's a mindset shift when it comes to creators. So one of the reasons that so many brands fail at working with creators is because it's a completely different mindset than every other piece of the direct consumer business, right? As a direct consumer business, your margins are small, or really any CPG business, your margins are not the biggest thing. It's not software. So you're fighting in every possible way for more, cheaper CPMs. You're trying to get the best deal. You're trying to have the most control. But when you work with creators, you almost need to do the opposite. And the more you can give them control, the more you can make them feel like they're a part of it, the more you can give, the more you're going to get out of it. That's just how creators work. And it blows my mind that people don't realize that yet. Anyways, I just talked a bunch. And if you want, I've got all the notes for everything I just said, because I wrote them all up. I've got all the notes at creatorstuff.nik.co. So you just go there, and everything I just said is clearly written out there for you to grab. But that's all I've got.
I also put in the link. Thank you, Nik. And thank you for dropping it. And your little example reminded me. I went to the new flagship store opening of Aritzia here in New York with a friend. They had food, they had sales, but you know what else they had at the store opening? Creators. They were
Yeah.
posting almost none of their own content onto their brand page, but they had 100 influencers post about this, which is how my friend found out about the opening and dragged me with her to begin with. Nik, you have been dropping knowledge. I dropped in the link for his notes, creatorstuff.nik.co. Make sure you grab it. Nik Sharma, as always, such a pleasure.